So you've been watching my channel the last few days here in early March 2020. You know that I purchased 4 brand new Walthers Mainline GP9s, Illinois Central paint. These out of the package come with ESU's Essential Sound Unit decoder. I haven't been overly happy with the performance of those decoders, so I did order a brand new Loksound 5 DCC decoder, 21 pin. In this video I'm going to show you how to change the decoder and upgrade this to a Loksound 5. So before you change decoders on any locomotives, you certainly want to do your homework and verify that the product you purchased is appropriate for the locomotive that you're going to install. This one here, and you can kind of take a look at the serial number. This one purchased is, it's actually a blank decoder from the manufacturer. It's a blank decoder. Here's the instructions that come with it. The dealer that I bought this from was kind enough to actually pre-program this for free before they shipped it out to me. So this is programmed for an EMD GP9, and you can select whatever sound file you want to put on here. When I get this decoder installed, I'll actually go ahead and show you the Loksound webpage where you can download their sound projects. But this is a GP9, so this is a 567 prime mover, and here's the decoder. It does have 2 brown wires coming off it for a speaker. You can see here's the slot for the 21 pin. So we're going to go ahead and set this aside, and we'll show you how to break down the locomotive. Anytime you're working with a locomotive with the shell off, I have an engine cradle. You can get these just a styrofoam piece here. Mostly the thing I like about these engine cradles, it has this cutout groove where you can store any used, or I shouldn't say used, but removed screws, couplers, etc. So this is a pretty basic removal of the shell. These 2 wires remove the plastic case or the plastic cover for the fuel tank. We're going to pull these screws out for the 2 couplers. So let me grab my screwdrivers and we'll get to it. Okay, so first thing, we'll take the back coupler off, and of course I didn't get the big enough screwdriver for it. So just 1 Phillips head screw out. And then the whole coupler box just slides straight out. You want to be very careful not to damage your locomotive. So here you can see the coupler box just comes right on out. So we'll set this off aside with the screw. Now I always try to work with a consistent direction with my locomotive or locomotives when I take the shell off. That way I ensure that the front coupler stays with the front, the rear stays with the rear. I know these parts should be interchangeable, but sometimes if you don't get them back in the right spots, they fight you like crazy. That screw out. And then again, we'll just gently ease this coupler box out. This one's a little tighter than what I would like it to be, but it is what it is. Okay, so we got the sets of couplers removed. I'm just going to set these up here in my engine cradle so we don't lose any of the parts or pieces. And now use my smaller screwdriver. There's just 2 small screws here with the fuel cell cover, or fuel cell. You can probably tell I watch a little bit of racing too. The fuel tank. And the compressors. Again, 2 small screws. I'm just going to set the screws inside the tank here. Set those off to the side. Now you have to be a little bit careful here. There are 2 additional screws, so you can see there's a screw in front of the front truck and there's a screw in front or behind the rear truck. Those 2 screws actually remove the motor mount from the frame, so we're going to leave those in there, otherwise when you take the shell off, the whole motor is going to come with it. So we're just going to drop these 2 screws out that were underneath the fuel tank cover. Again, I'm just going to set these off here by the fuel tank. So now we're just going to gently pry the shell loose and it should come right off. You just have to be real careful of the handrail stanchions. You don't want to break anything. It came loose. There we go. Every one of these is different. If you guys have ever removed the shell from a locomotive, you know sometimes they're easy and sometimes they fight you. This one's just a little bit irritable today. So I'll just go ahead and set the shell up there in my cradle. So if you've never seen a Walthers Mainline without the shell on, so obviously here's your decoder. It sits on a motherboard, has quick connect lights. Here's your headlight and rear light, speakers down in here. Everything is a quick connect pin for the headlight, the rear light, and then the power feeds that go off to the truck and then back to the engine. So should be pretty simple. Here's the old decoder. It's a 21 pin, so we're just going to slide that gently up. Set that off to the side. You can see there are your 21 pins. So here's how you know you have it on correctly. When you're looking at the decoder, there's 1 pin missing right here, and then if you look at the top of the locomotive, you can see right there, that's where the pin is. So they basically have these set up to where you cannot put the decoder on incorrectly. So we're just going to gently set this on here. Voila. That's all there is to it. Now, we're going to check to make sure this thing works, and before I actually check it out for real on the layout, I'm going to get my JMRI, or not, I'm sorry, not JMRI, my loc programmer set up, and we're going to do a read on it and see what we have with this decoder. So here you can see I've got the shell-less decoder sitting on my loc programmer setup. I got my loc programmer set up here on my computer, so let's go ahead and take a look at this decoder and see if it's reading it. Okay, got loc programmer set up here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this read program or read decoder data. So I'm going to take it a second here. Still reading it. Voila. So, good news. Anytime you install a decoder like this, you want to make sure that it's being recognized by your DCC system, or in this case, the loc programmer, which it is. So you can tell right up here, first thing we got is loc programmer, Loksound 5 DCC. I'm not going to go through and do a whole lot of programming on this for you right now. One thing I will do is I'm going to change the long address. The road number in this decoder, I'm sorry, this locomotive was 9147, so we are going to change that. So I can go ahead and I'll do a test run on my layout here. So we're just now getting this reprogrammed. We'll check brake settings. For those of you that watch a lot of my videos, you know I do a lot of setup with my proto throttle. So one of the nice things about One of the nice things about the Loksound 5 decoder is it has a great braking feature, so I'll take some time and adjust this to have it work appropriately for my layout. But again, we have multiple brake settings on this locomotive. We'll come down here, drive characteristics. I'm just curious. So we can check acceleration time, that's going to be equivalent to CB3. Braking time or your deceleration, that's going to be CB4. I'll eventually change those. Function mapping, again, if you watch my previous video on the essential sound unit decoder, there's really not a whole lot we can change on that. Here, now we have the ability to change the conditions of the particular function. So if I wanted to make F0, if I wanted to ignore the driving and ignore the direction, I can change that here. Those features were disabled on the essential sound unit decoder. So right now, again, it's set up front light, rear light, they're directional, you know, first generation EMD bell. All of this is just quite a bit different than the generic decoder or the value-based decoder. Again, our prime mover F8, it's a EMD 16-cylinder 567C with the 2 exhausts, and that is prototypically correct for the GP9s. You know, a lot of different functions, a lot of the sanding valves, the cab door, everything. So just a lot more functionality on a Loksound 5. Function outputs, again, I can do multiple headlights. So I can make these dimmable, which I'm going to do. Motor settings, let's take a look at this here. We're going to change, eventually I'll play with this and change it to match my other decoders, but you can change the speed tables. Sound settings, you know, again, master volume, we can change the volume, the brake sounds, hear all the sound slots. So before I take it over to my layout and before I put the bonnet back on this thing, nice thing is with the Lok Programmer, you do have the driver's cab. So if you click on the driver's cab tab over here, if I hit go, I'll be able to test before I even take it to the layout if this is going to work. So the big test here, let's just go ahead and initiate F8 and see if we do the startup sequence. Awesome, 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 awesome. So it works. So let's go ahead. I'm going to, we'll go ahead and kill the power here. It's one great thing about Lok Programmer is you do have the ability to do some of your sound checks here. So, you know, if you're going to change a sound, instead of having to take it back to your layout and powering it up and doing all that, we can actually do that without even taking it over to the layout. You can do a sound check on it. So obstacle number 1 cleared. I'm going to go ahead and get the shell back on it. We'll take it to the layout and do a quick test run. Sorry, real quick, before I do take it back to the layout and do the test run, I did want to show you this. So if you go to projects.esu.eu, let's actually change our language up here to English. Here we go. So ESU has just a variety of sound projects that you can download through the Lok Programmer to your decoder. So over here we have, again, we're looking at a Loksound 5 decoder. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on the Loksound 5 North American and Australian models. You can search. So I'm just going to search for a 567 because that's what I'm looking for. And it's going to give us a couple different choices. Here's a 12-cylinder 567C. Here's a 16-cylinder 567D3, and this is going to be something for more like a GP30. Here's a 12-cylinder 567C for some E units. Here we go. This is more than likely the one that we have on this particular locomotive, EMD 16-cylinder 567BC, 2 exhaust, non-turbocharged, which is exactly what the prototypical GP9 is. So if you wanted to actually download this, come over here and click on this download. You have to make sure it corresponds with your correct decoder. So this is a Loksound 5 DCC decoder. We're going to click on that, and it'll actually save it to the downloads folder within your computer, and then you can load it into Loc Programmer and load it onto your decoder. So as always, when you're reinstalling the shell of your locomotive, the key is to just do it in exactly the reverse of how you did it. Taking it off. Again, this one, if you remember, it fought me just a little bit taking it off. And I apologize if this is going out of the camera view a little bit. I'm trying to watch the camera viewfinder and gently deal with this at the same time. So once you get the shell on, and like I said, this one, she's a fighter. She's gonna fight me a little bit here today. There we go. Perfect. So then if you remember, these 2 screws that actually hold the shell on go on first. So we'll drop these on. Sorry, I don't have a magnetized screwdriver, which makes life a lot easier. Okay, wow, sorry about that. I had to shut the camera off and deal with it. It's been a long day. And of course, when you're in a hurry, things typically tend to fight you, so we'll go ahead and get the fuel tank installed, reinstalled. Then we'll deal with the coupler boxes here. Perfect. Alright, we'll get the couplers reinstalled. Just want to make sure I've got the front coupler here, that it's nice and tight and flush. My guess is this is going to be my guess is this one's going to fight me. It was tight getting it out. Well, I guess it didn't fight me. The rear one will fight. So it's always the last screw that you need to put in is always the toughest, it seems like. Alright, get this. Alright, 1 to go here, and then we got this locomotive button back up. And here's your rear. Just make sure that everything is tight and lined up. The bottom cover came loose a little bit. There we go. That'll tighten right up when we get that screw in there. All right. So there you go. I was able to take this locomotive apart, put it back together, and I didn't use any swear words. That's a win. So guys, thank you so much for watching my video. I'm just going to do a quick run through of the sounds, run it a few feet up and down my main line here, and I really want to thank you for watching my videos. So I wasn't planning on talking at the end of the video, but all I can say is, wow, what a difference. The sounds are just so much more crisp and clear. Wow, that's all I have to say, you know. So really now, these locomotives, these main lines, keep watching my channel. I'm going to go ahead over the next probably few months, really going to do some super details. There should be a bell that goes on the long hood here. You know, it needs an antenna. It has mold marks for all the grab irons. We'll put some MU hoses on the back. I'm just going to super detail these things out. So with a high-end decoder and some details, these will be great additions for my layout. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I appreciate you bearing with me on these locomotives. And if you have any questions, please make a comment. Thanks, guys.